friends. You have tuned to Tunnel of Dark Narrations. Thank you. I'm Turk Strongman. If you desire continued horror, look here for at least one new video per week, usually on Fridays. Please give the thumb up. It'll show everybody that you like anything that you like. And I humbly request that you subscribe to the channel and click on the new upload notification bell, but please also remember to keep checking back in case the new upload notification feature doesn't actually notify you. Our present story, Serial Killer, by Tunnel of Dark Narrations, arises from a true one. It involves the creepy and the horrible, unavoidably, for without them, there'd be no story. And right now, for us, here, right after the sound of the crystal bowl, there is only the story. Now on with the show. Pardon my language, but houseflies are motherfuckers, and German cockroaches are bastards. Flies, the motherfuckers eat shit and bother people. Other than that, there's not much to say about them. But cockroaches, the bastards, they have a lot more going on. So I'm sitting on a chair in my bedroom one day. Spencer sits on a facing one, and wrapped in my discourse about psychism and the fundamentally mental nature of the universe, lightweight occult stuff, and the true story of an encounter with a certain bastard that I call Hitler came up as an example. For it had become clear to me earlier on that as Hitler tuned into these same lightweight occult matters. But just let me tell you the whole story from the start. Spencer, I said, at least one reason why such things as telementation, or telepathy, which is not really a correct name for it, occur is such that the universe is mental in the first place. Now, I said, there are a lot of ways to talk about it, but that one right there is a pretty good way to sum it up. And we could go another way. We could start off saying that all is conscious substance in motion or something like that. But the mental universe gets straight to the point right here for us more easily. Does this make sense so far? Oh, yeah, he said. This is the cool shit. Good. Okay. So I went on. Let's just go ahead and say we're not talking about mental right now, exactly like we would if we were talking about some individual's mind, like yours or mine specifically. Well, then again, mind is the same wherever it shows up. I mean, your mind, my mind, universal mind, it doesn't matter. Mind is mind. We're talking about a different degree of mindedness or mind stuff, for lack of a better offhand word, than individual mind here when we're talking about mental universe. The mental universe includes what we, with our individual shares of mind stuff or mental function, call non-mind stuff, like solid matter. As most people know, solid matter is kind of an illusion anyway. A more accurate conception of it has it that it's almost all space with a few tiny little components characterized by electrical states. But, Spencer, we all know that that doesn't matter when it comes to getting hit by a car or something like that. The car is steel is hard, and getting hit by it hurts and things get broken. Still, at the bottom of affairs, the universe is one big mind at work, and if we individuals had its point of view or its degree of manifestation, we wouldn't perceive solid matter like we currently do from our puny perspective. And I went on, the reason getting hit by a car physically hurts and breaks physical things isn't because of anything like physical matter is solid. It's because in the wide spectrum of degrees of mind stuff, our, what we call physical bodies, are made of the same universal mind sub stuff as is the rest of what we call the physical world. Cars and our bodies are made out of the same sub-level of mind stuff, the elements of the earth. So yeah, clashing occurs. Sort of like you see lions fighting it out with each other, but not fighting it out with birds, which in turn might be fighting it out with each other. But we're not talking about lion against lion right now. We're talking another degree of affairs, a different degree of affairs, physical against physical. Still, damage from getting hit by a car or not, you see. It's all universal mind stuff. Are we still good? Sure, he said, especially if what you're getting at right now is that things like telepathy or, telementation happen because it's really all within one big mind anyway, just not yours or mine individually, but universally, fundamentally, the mental universe. I said, that's it. You got it. Now I need a drink of water. And these flies. I need 5 hands with each holding 2 fly swatters around here, motherfuckers. One landed on my arm and walked around looking all high strung. Look at this motherfucker, Spencer. Probably just ate somebody's shit. Get off my arm. You watch him, Spencer. I'll go get some water and he'll land on my other arm while I'm doing it. These motherfuckers are everywhere. I don't know how they can even recognize each other, Spencer, no matter how many eyes they have. They're all over the place and they all look alike. Never mind like what else. I got some tap water and came back. Well, that fly didn't attack me in there, but I think his brother did. They're all motherfuckers. And roaches are bastards. As soon as I got into the kitchen, I told him, but didn't look right at the sink in the stove area yet. I swear I saw about 100 of the bastards running out of the corner of my eye, and then by the time I actually looked, I didn't see any. I don't even know where they go mostly, I said. They don't seem to have any problem getting there, though. No traffic jams, even under the gun and in high gear. They're better drivers than we are, Spencer. Do you want some of this water? Nah, I'm not thirsty, but thanks, bro. That's cool. I said, I used to not understand why they run like that when I go into the kitchen sometimes, and then other times they don't. And peculiar how if one runs, they all do. Or they just all don't worry about it together. Run together or don't worry about it together. And I've never detected one running and then another one catches on and runs, followed by a few who catch on and run, and then a third of the ones left to do it, and then finally the majority, the rest of them gets the memo and takes off. No, never saw that. If one's in the car, they're all in the car at the same time. Like all the bastards are really just one. But it looks to us like they are a lot and not just one, because of the space between them, and because each one seems to be doing his own thing if no outside influence interferes, when really there are like individual cells making up one whole organism. And if that's the way it really is, like maybe also with ants, then at the level of the one organism, we're talking a mental one, because physically they're a bunch of bastards. Well, we can then turn that backwards and say that they all know what each other's doing, and when to run, and where to run to, and why to run this time, and not the next time, because they are all of one bastard mind. And for God's sakes, that one bastard mind is part of the universal mind. Mind stuff is mind stuff. Like I said, it just takes on a lot of forms, frequencies, levels of organization, phases of condensation, and degrees of self-awareness. So, Spencer, I wanted to find out if I had any connection with them, mentally. And maybe that would explain then some of some of the running sometimes and not running sometimes when I go into the kitchen, and some of the running and then not running at other times. So I took my hypothesis, I told him, and I did some intersubjectively confirmable, falsifiable, mathematizable empirical investigation by setting up test circumstances through which I might come to predict, explain, and hopefully control the ins and outs of these bastards and I. Spencer pretty much busted up. That was a mouthful. Yeah, well, I took another drink. I used to be a scientist in a former life. You sure you don't want a swig? Yeah, but thanks. I still have this beer. Well, I had forgot all about his beer, even though it was a 40-ouncer and it was right there on the floor. He picked it up and raised it part way, turned his head right a click or two, paused, side glanced at me leftwise, and asked, so what'd you do? What happened? Then he went ahead and took a drink, choking a little because some of it went down the wrong pipe, which made some spray out of his mouth, and he had to use his sleeve. And then he set it back down on the floor. I dipped down one eyebrow, made my eyes big, and cocked my head like I was upset. What the hell was that all about? If you're going to act like that around here, you're going to have to leave until you're more civilized, Spencer. Oh, shit, cold snap. He looked impressed with my wit. Yeah, I said I'm one of the Witt brothers, but I'm not sure which one, dim, knit, or half. Well, he asked me, so what happened? I said, our mother never told us which one is which. That's what happened. We never knew who our father was either, so we couldn't ask him. Oh, shit. He said, no, I mean with the bastards. I said, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Damn, he said, stop. He shook his head a little and I busted up. Okay, I went on. I said, so like I said, I did some experiments. I did some of this and I did some of that. And I soon realized that I needed to just roll out my body language because it really didn't seem to matter much with the bastards. I could walk in there into the kitchen and do something and maybe even look at them and act the same as every other time, just going about my business, maybe over near them and maybe not. And sometimes they'd run and sometimes they didn't worry about it. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence or chance, but then I kept a tally. I did the math. Eventually, it became apparent to me that my intentions or my attitude might have something to do with it. My state of mind, somehow. But I couldn't quite put my finger on the particulars of it. So I sat around thinking about it for a while, maybe a week or so. One day, one of the bastards walked by my left foot. I didn't care. I asked him what he thinks about the whole thing. And he just stopped. It was only a couple inches away. So I tapped my foot on the floor, and he just walked off. So overall, I said to Spencer, my attention went from the kitchen gang to individual roaches. This took more time. Individual roaches' travels didn't happen to intersect with the proximity of my feet just every day. You know what I mean, Spencer? Over a period of time, though, enough of the bastards passed by close enough for me to collect more useful data, and between each opportunity, I had enough time to work out what to try next. Sure, I went on, there were some gray areas in the results, but the preponderance of evidence increasingly led me to theorize that what made them run, when they run, is when I held ill feelings about them, or had thoughts, even minor ones, of stomping on them, or for that matter, felt disgusted by them. And the rest of the time, they didn't worry about it, no matter what I did. Spencer looked a little bugged out. Oh, shit. Yeah, I said, that's right. Oh, shit. That's what I thought, too. That's what I told him. And then I said, so then I took my research back to the kitchen bastard network to see if what is true of the individual might be true of the collective. And there were a few areas, again, at about the same ratio as with the individuals. The preponderance of evidence supported my developing theory. The bastards were reading my mind. Spencer took another drink of his beer, and this time he acted more civilized about it, and I thanked him kindly for not going into spasms and everything, spitting his beer all over my place. Damn, stop, just stop. He shook his head like he does, so I stopped, and I didn't say anything. Fuck, man, you know what I mean. And he said, so they were reading your mind. Okay, go on. And I said, yeah, that's the theory. And it explains a lot of stuff. And if it's true, it points at a good example of the mental universe in operation. That's what we were talking about. Spencer looked a little creeped out again, and I grinned about it, and then I went on. But I still wasn't fully convinced. And I wondered just how far this potential mind-reading thing really went with the bastards. But I couldn't think of any more experiments, no matter how hard I tried. But I got the feeling that more was happening than I realized, like an increase in the overall mental connection in question. So then one day I laid it down right here on my bed. That's what I said. And the bed was right there beside us, there in the corner of the room. Spencer's eyes looked like his attention to detail had just now doubled. I paused like I was about to say something horrible, and then I continued. And then Hitler came in. Hitler? Hitler who? Hitler the bastard, of course, I answered him. Maybe the leader of the whole bunch of them in here. Or at least one of their soldiers, or maybe one of their expendables in general. I don't know, but I call him Hitler. After all, they are German cockroaches. Right then, Spencer was taking another drink of beer and had a mouthful just when I said German, and he shot out the beer all over the place. Damn, Spencer. I thought you were more civilized now. And I took another drink of my water, filling my mouth and swishing it around while I stared straight at his eyes, and then I smoothly swallowed all of it, and I told him, see, civilized. That's how we do it if we're civilized, but you're obviously a barbarian. Yeah, okay. Then he defended himself by bringing me down to his level, and he went on, what about what you just told me the other day? That, what was it? You know, the legend you made up about yourself. Something like, his name was Turk the Barbarian. Men shuddered at the sound of his name. Women grew moist at the sight of him. Yet he was the friend of children that rolled over. What about that? Okay, Spencer, you're right. You're right, sure. But at least I know how to swallow. He said, fucking Hitler. What about Hitler? So I told him about the bastard. I'm laying here in the bed, middle of the day, just relaxing, and I look over there at the opposite corner of the room, and there's a cockroach walking up it. Just going up leisurely. No hurry or anything. Sort of going this way and that way as he went, but generally upward along the corner where the two walls come together right over there. So I watch him, wondering who he thinks he is walking up there like that. Just watching him, you know, but I had a strange feeling about him. Like this guy might have a plan or something, but doesn't want to look like he has one. But instead, like he's just out for an innocent afternoon stroll. But I ignored the feeling, that is, until he got to the top of the corner and then started across the ceiling diagonally in my direction. At first, my strange feelings still felt slight and vague, but as he kept coming across, still zigzagging this way and the other, and now and then stopping, and maybe here and there backtracking a little, but overall coming right over my way, the feeling turned from strange to uneasy. And then suddenly it grew more into my awareness. How does he stay up there? What if he falls? Or what if he comes on right over my face and just lets go? I started to actually get worried, Spencer. The bastard looked like he was on a mission. Even more, I just had that feeling. His direction of travel could just be happenstance, I thought. But it was sort of like I could read his mind, too, or read the intent behind his direction. And then I thought to myself, oh shit. What if he's coming over to do what I just now thought of? Drop on my face. Or, oh shit again. What if he wasn't coming over to do that, but now that I had thought of it, and he's reading my mind, now he's going to go ahead and do it. I started to get really antsy, Spencer. I really did. And then something even worse hit me. What if me now thinking he'll go ahead and do it because I thought of it and he's reading my mind, what if all that combined actually makes him do it? Like me controlling what he does? What if there had been no mission in the first place, but I just now created one for him? And now from his point of view, he's on an unavoidable course of action. And then, Spencer, I wanted to get up and leave the damn room. The more I thought about the mental universe and my immediate association with this bastard coming closer and closer to being right over my face, the more I increasingly believed in the apparently awful inevitable. But my curiosity, my desire to know the truth, overrode my urge to get up and get out of here. Maybe I'd even got held under some sort of spell and couldn't have got up and left anyway. I'm not sure. But as he got real close to the moment of truth, I felt resigned to a realization that destiny was about to show its ugly head, and the result might land right in my mouth. So on purpose, though I harbored no ill feeling toward the bastard, I just needed to know. So I laid there with my mind open and my mouth closed. And there I paused for effect. Spencer caught on. He said, just tell me what happened already. I said, okay. It happened. What it? It, Spencer. The inevitable. He got right up over my face and hesitated and let go. I turned my head just in the nick of time. He landed on my pillow right in line with where my mouth had been when he'd let go. Bastard. Spencer looked a little sick by now. Well, and then what? Well, I jumped back a bit, pretty much instinctively, and turned my head and I saw him. And he was looking pretty frantic, like a coward all of a sudden. And I gave him the big brush off, and so he sailed through the air again, sideways this time, and I don't know where he landed, maybe off planet. And I was shaken up, Spencer, and the more I considered all the implications, the more shaken up I got. And I named the dive-bombing bastard Hitler. Some say he's still alive, hiding out in another country, maybe Argentina. I guffawed over my wit in that last part about what some people said. Spencer didn't think it was funny, though. Oh, shit, you made all this up just to say that? His chin and mouth took on the look of Bruce Lee's in a fight. No, man. Okay, maybe I shouldn't have thrown that in there at the end. It just came into my head right now. But I swear, everything else is the God's honest truth, Spencer. And the whole thing had finally convinced me about the mental universe in full operation with these bastards and I. But now looking back, maybe I shouldn't have laughed. Or even said that last remark in the first place. Or even told Spencer that story. Or maybe even done my experiments in the first place because of what came next. Suddenly, I felt hungry. What happened was, as I turned the conversation with Spencer back to psychism in general, I got up and I walked into the kitchen as I kept talking. I got in there. I didn't detect any roaches. I got down a box of Raisin Bran from the cupboard over the sink, the only food I had in my apartment, and I came back and sat down, still talking. I stood the box on the floor between my feet and tore it open because it was still new. It had just been in my cupboard a couple of months, and I'd forgotten about it until right now. I just kept on talking and looking at Spencer while I also ripped open the plastic bag inside the box. I reached my right hand down in and scraped it together a handful, and I shoved it into my mouth. I was on a roll with what I was telling him, so I chewed and talked at the same time. Spencer listened and watched me, and he started looking sick again. I didn't know what I'd said this time to make him look that way. I just kept going, talking away, and masticating my mouthful, and I mentally noted that for being a couple months old, the Raisin Brans were still fresh. Nice and crunchy, juicy at the same time, pretty good. I maintained eye contact with him and reached into the box for another handful. Spencer glanced down at what I was doing and then back up at me and looked even sicker while I pontificated about the goings-on of the mental universe, and I worked the contents of my mouth into a nice slurry. All right, so there I am, reaching down into the box, grabbing up another handful of cereal, and I feel something sort of fluid going up my arm all the way around it. Spencer looks down again at what I'm doing. I looked down then too, and that's when I realized why he looked so sick. The box, well, really the bag in it, had no Raisin Bran in it at all. Cockroaches poured up my arm and out of the bag into the box and then out of the box and down on the floor and, like I said, up my arm. They scrambled all over each other like an army under heavy attack with only one way out, and it's where the enemy's coming in. I shook them off my arm, stomped to death the ones scattering across the floor, grabbed up the box and threw it out my window, sat back down, looked at Spencer again, who now looked absolutely horrified, and I faced one of the biggest decisions of all time. Spit or swallow. Spencer sat perfectly still. I looked him right in the eye and relaxed, mouth closed, swished around the mush in it, and swallowed. Then I kept on talking like nothing even happened. The implications of the thing were too many to consider, and besides, I had to show that I ain't no limp-wrist, needle-dick weasel fuck. Spencer never said a word about it to me, not ever. Just like the time when he and I and his big dog had gone to stay in a cabin out in the woods one time. I had walked a little distance off and took a dump. Spencer didn't know about it. I mean, why now it's going to take a dump, you know. His dog followed me and ate all of my shit as it came out, scaring me pretty bad, especially because he growled when I tried to get him to stop, and then when I tried to stand up at first. Finally, though, the dog had let me go with my balls still intact, and as the two of us strolled out from the trees and the brush into the clearing by the cabin, Spencer stood there and he called his dog to him. And the dog ran right over. Spencer leaned down and his dog licked his mouth. Spencer drew back and wiped his mouth and then looked at his hand. Then he looked up at me and I acted like nothing happened. He never said anything about it. Neither did I. So this was like that time. Spencer never brought up either one. Well, I also had some water bugs show up now and then in my apartment. They look like dramatically overgrown German cockroaches, and they can fly, whereas roaches can't, except, of course, if they drop from a ceiling or get the big brush off to another planet. Once one had walked across my floor. I got out a big empty coffee can and turned it upside down over him, and then put my copy of the Random House Unabridged Dictionary, which was really thick and heavy. I'd put it on the can. I left it all like that for a few days. Finally, I'd taken off the dictionary and picked up the can, and the water bug wasn't even in there anymore. Now, as Spencer and I sat in my bedroom, he still looking sick, and me still talking, I saw something move on top of my bookshelf. I looked over, and I saw the worst thing. A giant water bug sitting there, looking in my direction. Cocksucker. Thanks for listening to Serial Killer, friends. I hope that you enjoyed the story and that you felt the horror of the real-life events about which it tells. I would really appreciate it if you give the story a big thumb up down here below the video, and I welcome your comments further down. I just ask that when you write your comments, you keep an open mind and respect others. I plan to open the way soon for you to submit your own horror stories for narration here. And if you like this channel, feel free to support it by subscribing to it. And please always check back for weekly uploads. Lastly now, amid the noisy, confusing haste of this old world, its ghostly shadows of the past, and its vague uncertainties about the future, strive to stay alive, to be well, and to find peace in your restless souls. I'm Turk Strongman. Thank you for tuning to Tunnel of Dark Narrations.